It is the fastest growing criminal industry worldwide. They made $32 billion profit, more than Nike, Google, and Starbucks combined in 2016. Human trafficking. About 27 million people are trafficked around the globe. 80% of trafficked people are girls and women with the promise of a better life.
Human trafficking has a very dark side. There are accounts from victims that they were chained in closets, that they were burned, many guns put to their heads, threats of abuse, raped constantly, beaten with poles, a broomstick down their throat. It goes on, the devastation that the victims have experienced who have been sex trafficked. But some women, some girls do not survive. They die in the life.
An organization established in Milwaukee has embarked on raising awareness on how to stop sex trafficking in the community.
Foundations for Freedom exists to strengthen women and girls, reduce vulnerabilities, ultimately to eradicate human trafficking. And we do that through education, awareness, prevention, and just really lifting our voice to raise awareness that this is happening in our community. And from the beginning, we said not in our community and not in yours. Human trafficking is a term that involves force, fraud, and coercion. And that's important for us to know as we're moving and working with individuals who are victims of this plight. The sad part is that 13 is the average age that girls are trafficked domestically. So this is happening very young. And we've met individuals who are even younger that have been affected by human sex trafficking.
Milwaukee has ranked high as one of the cities harboring sex trafficking activities and has been described as the home for traffickers, also known as pimps.
And it is in all 72 counties in Wisconsin. So it's not just Milwaukee, it's not just an inner city problem, but it affects everyone across the border. The pimps, they are going to jail, and we're trusting that they get a lot of years for the devastation, the abuse that is being inflicted on the victims. It's a double-edged sword because the victim testifying in court is very important to, they call it flipping their pimp. It's very important for the case to have that testimony. But yes, of course, if Stockholm Syndrome is a part of the victim's mentality, where she may love her pimp, and that happens. She may have a child by her pimp. There may be a sense of loyalty there. When we think of the John, the rapist, that's the person who is paying for sex. And yes, it's illegal. And it's not okay. It's ruining lives.
If you see something, say something. One less victim in Milwaukee is one less victim in the world.
Welcome to Women's Corner. I'm your host, Joanne Williams. In today's program, we're discussing financial literacy for women. It's important for women to know the basics on how to manage their finances. I have three financial experts to help us understand this topic. Brooke Napawaki, Wealth Management Advisor at Crescendo Wealth Management, Shannon Hilliard, Financial Associate at Thrivent Financial, and Mary Allman, Partner and Portfolio Manager at Marietta Investment Partners. Welcome to Women's Corner.
Thank you.
Financial literacy. Let's start with you, Brooke. What is financial literacy, and why should I have it?
Well, everyone should have it. And really, financial literacy is having knowledge and skills about various financial topics. And there are so many things like budgeting, knowing what your balance sheet is, there are numerous elements, but really using those and then figuring out how to apply those financial skills to your life.
Why do you think it's important for women to know these things, to have these skills?
It's important for women to understand what their finances are comprised of, to understand debt management, to understand how to handle their finances. So then that way they can be financially fit and understand what it means to save, to budget, and to manage. It makes them overall successful financially. So that's very important for women to understand.
Does that take a lot of time to learn these things and to do these things?
It can, but it really doesn't take a lot for individuals just to have a financial plan, to meet with an advisor or a financial planner to discuss what their goals are financially. And that's what we do. We educate and just make certain that they do understand what they're looking to have in place financially.
Mary, what are some of the things that challenge women when it comes to being financially literate?
Sure. There's a number of issues I think that are women specific. The gender pay gap is still a big issue, so women are on average making 80 cents to the dollar. A number of women are underemployed or maybe part-time employed. Women often leave the workforce temporarily to become caregivers for their children or for their parents. So that means potentially lower savings or lower income overall. Women live longer than men. Typically, they have higher health care costs. So there's a number of issues that are very specific to women.
Brooke, do you think women handle money differently than men?
I think that, I don't know that I look at it as much as a gender decision, but really an individual attitude towards money. So I characterize that as someone's money mindset, how they think and feel about money and personal finances. And it really depends on their childhood, what money messages they had, the experiences, and the economic circumstances that they have. So I think it's really more of an individual outcome.
What kind of financial challenges do women have?
I would say as far as maybe the lack of knowledge, maybe not quite understanding how finances work, how they're knowing about their spending habits. So that could be a challenge as well too. And as Mary mentioned, I mean, a lot of times we're the nurturer, we're the caregiver, so we tend to put ourselves on the back burner when it pertains to finances because we're looking to maybe take care of other individuals versus ourselves. And so that can be a challenge for women as well too, to think about themselves, to have a financial plan in place, so then that way, if they have that emergency fund or something happens, they'll be prepared for that.
Should women also teach their children to manage money so it doesn't fall all on them?
Absolutely. Financial literacy can start, as young as kindergarten, if not younger. You can start teaching the basics about a budget. You can start teaching basics about savings, as well as longer term type planning. So absolutely, you can start, with very young children.
Are these all things that should be taught in the family or in school or both?
I think that I know that most states in our country don't require financial literacy education. So although it would be wonderful if that was the case, I really think it's really a dual responsibility. So starting to have those conversations, not just with your children, but also for people to start having those conversations with their parents. Intergenerational conversations are really, really important.
Exactly.
What were you going to say, Mary?
Wisconsin has a really great program, Make a Difference Wisconsin, which is a financial literacy program for teens. It's in a number of schools throughout the state, and it's really helping bridge that gap between just learning at home as well as learning at school.
Well, let's take a look at some women and find out how they're managing their income.
There are so many issues affecting women, but one issue in particular is most ignored in the community: financial literacy for women. According to the Wall Street Journal, women are failing at this because of lack of knowledge, and it is costing them so much. How financially literate are women?
So as a child, I lived in a lower income household, and money was always hard to come by, so we did a lot of struggling as a child.
For me, when I was coming up, I watched my mom struggle to keep the bills situated and keep food on the table. She was a single parent.
I know there was times when my children were little and I was definitely living paycheck to paycheck. And I remember one instance where I was really lucky. I made it all the way through the week and I had one bottle of formula in the left in the refrigerator.
These women are trying to plan their finances as best as possible, manage the patterns in which they spend, and prioritize.
I struggled for a while with having kids and just having a family period, that I was tired of doing that, and I wanted to be more mindful of the money that I was spending.
Is to ensure that I can live comfortably. I don't want to live beyond my means.
But it's not going to be the same retirement that I thought we were going to have when I was in my late 20s and planning.
I'm managing my monthly income by setting a budget. I have money set aside for bills and money set aside for miscellaneous things.
Well, I plan my income on a quarterly basis using an Excel spreadsheet. So what I do is plug in all of my bills and their due dates, and then I look and correspond with my paychecks and approximately how much they'll be.
My spending pattern is pretty much taking care of things that is important first, like rent, car note, things of that nature, and then fun stuff later.
Focusing on bills first, so I make sure all of my bills are taken care of, and then I usually leave a little bit left over for me to do a little shopping for work clothes.
Well, I have to pay a mortgage, have to pay utilities, put some money in the bank every month, groceries.
For some women, it is hard for them not to overspend more than their income. For these women are keeping their budget according to their needs and wants.
No, I do not spend more than my monthly income.
I don't spend more than my monthly income, but I do come close to going over budget, so I have to cut back near the end of the month.
For instance, recently I traveled out to California to see our youngest son, who's a senior in college, row. He's on the rowing team. So to be able to do that, I had to put the expenses on a credit card. So that's more, the trip is more than I earn in a month.
Between budgeting, spending, and saving my income, of the three, the most important for me would be budgeting my income, because I have things to take care of at home first, and then saving so that I can have things put aside for emergencies, and then spending.
To me, the most important thing is to focus on budgeting, because I have to make sure that I have enough money to make it through the end of the month.
I try to budget, but I'm not afraid to spend money, because why do we earn money? To enjoy it a little. So, and yes, I try to save money. I do make a point of saving a certain amount of money every month.
Well, they have some advice for women struggling with not enough income and more expenses, and what needs to be done for women to have financial success.
The advice that I can give to young women that is struggling to manage their monthly income is to set a strict budget for themselves, literally to the dime and penny.
Map it out. Figure out what your expenses are, what you need to pay each month in each bills, and then calculate out what your income is. You have to make sure that your income exceeds your expenses.
Especially for young women, you have to take a little bit of money and you got to put it away and pretend like it's not even there.
I feel that financial literacy needs to be taught, but not at the college level. It should really be taught at the high school level.
Well, this is the Women's Corner, and our topic today is financial literacy for women. That was pretty interesting about how women manage their money. Brooke, what did you think? I mean, one of them uses an Excel spreadsheet to keep track of her money.
I got really excited.
I know you did,
quite
yeah.
frankly, yeah. I thought it was great. You know, a theme that kept coming up is they reflected on their childhood, which is a good reminder that a lot of our financial foundations occur in your childhood. So if you're a parent, remember that. And if you're an adult struggling with finances, maybe think about and reflect upon what were the messages that you learned about finance and money, and those might be helping you or holding you back in your adulthood.
What do you think? None of these women talked about getting into financial problems, Shannon,
Right.
but it can happen. What kind of financial problems do women get themselves into?
Well, overspending, and a lot of times it can be emotional as far as what we want to purchase or what we're looking to buy. Maybe not knowing the details or the ins and out of that financial purchase that they want. The interest rate may be higher, or they may not quite understand how it works, and so they may get themselves financially into a red or a bad situation as well too. So,
What about retail therapy? I do that every now and then, which is shopping. You know, that makes you feel good.
It does, and that's why you have to have a budget and a plan in place, and that was the norm from what we saw in the video. They had a budget. They want to make certain that they don't exceed that, and they want to make certain that their spending is not over that budget amount. So if it's within the budget, then I would say from time to time it's okay to go out and treat yourself to things from time to time, but it shouldn't be the norm.
Well, you've done that, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I have a category for fun spending in my budget. But absolutely, if you're doing it a once in a while thing, so it's not every Friday you stop off at the mall and do some shopping. So it's a periodic thing. And
Well, shopping and deciding how to manage your money is also an emotional thing too. What would you tell women to do when they look at the budget or the money they have and say, I just don't have enough? How do you calm down and handle it?
Sure. Take some deep breaths. Think through some of your financial history, some of the things that Brooke mentioned about what you were taught about money and what sort of things that you associate with money. So really take a deep breath and just kind of go through it. And line by line, look where can I cut? Where can I increase my income if that's also a possibility? It's not just a matter of cutting, but finding ways to expand as well.
Research.
Yeah, research is important.
Yeah, it is. With all the tools that are available online, you can research to say, okay, is this within my means? Can I get it somewhere else less expensive? Or is this the right time for me to get it? Maybe there's going to be a sale in the next few years or next few weeks or what have you, where you maybe don't need to get it right away, just to kind of do a little bit of research before you make that purchase. That always helps. Like, don't be a compulsive spender, and people tend to do that. Yeah, so just kind of think about it and just think about the impact that it will have on you. You can always wait. There's a difference between a need and a want. So you can always wait. Yeah, you can wait till later.
So what comes first, the need or the want? I mean, Brooke, what would you say? I really want that new outfit.
So I teach junior achievement, and one of the lessons in first grade junior achievement is understanding the difference between needs and wants. And so you got to start with those needs: food, shelter, clothing, and then you move on to the wants.
And I think when one of the women on the video indicated that when she's done at the end of the month, when she sees that her budget is starting to max out, she'll dial back her spending. So people kind of do that as well.
And one effective thing to keep in mind as you're creating your budget, once you have enough income to offset your needs and you can then focus on your wants, is to try to align your budget with your values. So know that my budget isn't going to look like Shannon's budget because we have different values and different things are important. I don't really like purses, so I don't buy expensive purses, but I may really dislike cleaning, so I may outsource cleaning in my life. So that's just an example, is aligning your budget expenses based on what's important to you.
Now, when you want to, instead of just spending money, you want to charge it. You want to use that plastic and use the credit card. But then you get involved in having too much debt on your credit card. How do you avoid that, or how do you fix it?
Sure. Well, you can start, if you do have some extra available money, you can start by paying it off. If you get a windfall, say a tax return or a bonus, you can apply that to the credit card balance. Focus on paying more than the minimum. There's a number of strategies. You can utilize a snowball strategy where you just keep piling into the debt and paying it off, or paying off the highest credit card first, things like that. There's a number of strategies out there.
I know sometimes when I get the bill from a department store, which shall go nameless, they also list how much I'm paying in interest. And if I wait for 10 years and pay this much, it'll be that much. And if I wait for 20 years, and I look at that and I say, oh my goodness, I'll be paying more than it was worth in the first place. Is that a good thing to think about?
It is, definitely. And so that's only been happening for the past few years, where they'll break it down as far as, okay, if you pay just the minimum payment, this is how much time it will be. It'll take you to pay it off, versus if you pay over that amount and it'll only take 3 years and you're saving this big chunk on interest as well. So yes, something to think about, something to consider, and it's great that creditors show that and do that, so then that way you can make more than the minimum payment, because that's getting you nowhere, especially if your balance is high. You're only paying on the interest. So
Now,
it's nice to pay attention to that.
We talked a little bit about credit scores. What is a credit score, and why do you need one? What do you think?
Well, your credit score is really an indication of your credit worthiness. So the various credit agencies, your facts go into that, and they watch what you're doing and with your credit, and they assign you a score as a result of that. So you want to have credit, or you have a bad credit score, but you want to use your credit wisely so that you have a positive credit score.
Well, that sort of seems backwards. It seems that if you didn't use it, the credit card, you'd have a better credit score. No?
Well, because if you don't utilize it, then you aren't showing your ability to be
Yes,
creditworthy.
exactly.
So the reason that you have to use it
Right.
is to show the various lending institutions that you are indeed creditworthy.
It tells your history. It tells your financial history, so that's important. So then that way creditors can see how has she been maintaining her credit. Has she been making those minimum payments? Has she exceeded her credit limit? So it tells a story, and it tells your history. So it helps to be able to look at someone's credit and see how they maintain their finances.
Now, does a credit score just come from credit cards?
No, various all the types of credit that you might have. So credit cards, student loans, mortgages, utility bills, healthcare bills if there are overdue could be a claim on your credit. Just about anywhere you could be having a debt facility or credit.
There'll also be other personal information on your credit report, so going on beyond just the score, about where you live, where you've lived in the past, maybe where you work. So there's a number of things that you can use to identify yourself through that credit report.
Well, it sounds like they keep track of a lot of things about you.
They do. Inquiries if you're applying for credit. So that's why, you know, if someone is like bouncing from creditor to creditor and applying for credit, and we look to see if there's a balance inquiry, or in the past when I worked at BMO, that can tarnish it if you have multiple credit inquiries. So that can really play a factor.
Well, in the time we have left, each one of you, give me 2 tips on how to have enough money at the end of the month so that you can do what you want to do. What should I do? Save, get more credit cards, you know, what should I do?
So kind of my top 2 financial tips would be, the first thing is just start funding that emergency fund. That's a foundation that people of all different levels of income seem to have challenges with, but really make sure that you're putting money aside in a safe account, so it's not invested money, but it's just safe, and slowly build that up. So it's 3 to 6 months of your household's expenses. That's number 1, and then number 2 would be to understand your balance sheet, which means what you own, your assets and your liabilities, what you owe, and with that, then focus on what you owe, understand what your highest interest rate debts are, and pay those off.
And I
Would
would
you
say,
agree?
yes, and paying yourself first. That was what Brooke said, so that's the most important thing, to make certain that you do pay yourself first, and then that way, if there's an emergency or something happens, you'll be able to use those funds.
And Mary, I bet you'd say don't shop as much as I do, right?
Well, no, I think I would add on to prioritize, so definitely set your goals. If you want to retire at 60, that's your top goal. If you want to have 3 months of emergency funding, that's one of your goals. So really set those goals and prioritize, and then make a plan and track it, stick to it.
All right, that's what I'm going to do. We'll see if it works. That was some great information on how women should manage their money. Thanks to Brooke Nabawaki, Shannon Hilliard, and Mary Allman, all experts on financial issues for women. We hope you got some information that you can use from this show. Thanks for watching. I'm Joanne Williams.
Were formed in 1975 by 4 executive women in Milwaukee who really found themselves in a boardroom full of white males and had reached that executive level, that high caliber level, but didn't really have women to share best practices with, to talk about work-life balance issues, and so they formed Temple Milwaukee in 1975. So Temple Milwaukee is focused on 3 core competencies of leadership, networking, and mentoring. Leadership, we provide programming, high caliber programming for our leaders, professional development opportunities and continuing their education. Networking is provided to our members through different opportunities. Through our programming opportunities, they're able to meet with other members either one-on-one or in group settings. We have more than 330 members to network with, and we offer that benefit for our members. Mentoring, we do it on 2 different levels. So mentoring is through one-on-one. So we have a younger group called our Emerging Women Leaders that our Temple Milwaukee members are matched with, and they're paired one-on-one. And then we also have mentor circles. So these are groups that are confidential groups, 5 to 8 members strong, and that women at the Temple Milwaukee level are able to connect with their peers and share both their professional and their personal journey in a very confidential setting. 2 years ago, we were faced with what does the next generation of Temple Milwaukee look like? How do we remain relevant with our members? And how do we remain relevant within the organization or within the community as well? So we introduced our Emerging Women Leaders program, and this is women that are not quite at the Temple Milwaukee level for becoming a member, but are identified within their own organization as the up-and-comer. They're 6 to 8 years within their career. They're looking for opportunities to professionally develop, to meet to be mentored by Temple Milwaukee women. So we developed our Emerging Women Leaders. So that was a little bit of a challenge for us in terms of how do we remain relevant. The other opportunity that we're looking at and that we're facing with our strategic priorities is this diversity and inclusion. So how do we have a diverse membership base? How do we be inclusive? So we have really studied our membership base as a whole and started to take a look at how do we attract more diverse population? How do we get a more inclusive membership into our organization? So that's some of the challenges that we'll be tackling in the next couple of years. So one of the greatest benefits for our members is to have 300 plus women to kind of learn from and to get advice from and get guidance from. So that's what we really encourage our Temple Milwaukee members to reach out to their other members, to get guidance, to seek advice, to have a confidential setting. If something like sexual harassment or pay equity, if they're struggling with that, they have our membership base to certainly reach out to. So one of the greatest pieces of advice I learned early in my career was to work outside of your comfort level and take some risks. And so if I were to tell a young woman that is early in their career, or maybe just graduated high school or graduated college and is looking, what do they want to become or what they want to do at later in their career, I would say to try different avenues and to take risks, to challenge their comfort zone, and to push their boundaries. I think that was the best advice that I received young in my career.